If you go on the front page, you'll find games that share a lot of the same characteristics: rounded, colourful, user-friendly interfaces, pretty visual and camera effects, polished models and pretty textures, and player retention strategies such as auras, pits, daily rewards, and gacha mechanics. It is as though games have to be accessible and trendy and dopamine-inducing. Although one could talk about the arguably simple gameplay of most of these games, the truth is that many popular games today have entire development teams behind them working hard to build, program, model, animate, market, and especially update them for months before the game's release, and for years throughout a game's lifetime, all for largely the singular purpose of meeting expectations, maintaining player retention, and earning a profit. But this was not always the case. There was once a time when the front page was dominated by solo amateur developers with nowhere as much skill or knowledge, if any, as modern developers. DevX was a strange new concept, and development teams were a rarity, and the development tools that people used at the time were much more limited than what we have today. In fact, 3 models, ugly stretch decals, ugly textures, ugly particle effects, and ugly on-screen messages, and misleading game titles and blatant re-uploads of uncopylocked games were the norm at the time. If you want to find evidence of this, you need not look further than old Roblox videos, retro game recreations, or most importantly, place roulettes. One could argue that anyone who's grown used to the polish of modern Roblox games could never go back to times like these. In fact, developers today, and even Roblox themselves, seem to distance themselves as much as possible from this archaic style in their games. But today, we'll be taking a look at one development studio who fully embraces the chaos and confusion of a time once forgotten. Any game by the development group, Funny Game Studios, is the polar opposite of what is considered standards today. Any hint or sense of what one would associate with quality today is nowhere to be found in these games, and have instead been replaced with 3 models upon 3 models thrown together into an unintelligible, incoherent, and overwhelming mess, with little sense of connection, purpose, or direction. Everything is broken and nothing works. Some of these games have no goals. In fact, some are completely unplayable. They have nothing to offer, no reason for you to stay, and this is reflected of a complete lack of players in every one of these games. These games are everything a modern game avoids being, and that, I believe, is completely deliberate and something to respect. At first glance, one might consider these games low effort and call the developers lazy for using 3 models, but that is far from the truth. Behind these games, such as Who Killed Roller Coaster Tycoon and Minecraft 2, there was someone who spent real time and effort to maintain a consistent theme and level of density in order to achieve a specific vision. In this sense, we can relate these works to that of art during the era of abstract expressionism. While many might ridicule art enthusiasts for giving such attention and praise to what at first may look like a bunch of smudges and scribbles, one must consider the artists who exercise their hand and brook sweat to apply strokes to the canvas, and see this as a purest expression of the artist's will. One must also consider the context, the experimentation and intended subversion of standards and expectations at the time, which made these works so fascinating. What is the intention of the developers? Looking at the nature of these games, coupled with the name of the group, Many would say that these are nothing but memes, and with no purpose other than to be a joke. This is more than likely, but I believe there's more that we can take from this. You could say that these games are a satirization of modern standards, mockery or even rebellion against a seemingly universal formula of game design that every developer seems inclined to follow, and that many today would criticize as being repetitive, unoriginal and uncreative. But I believe that the most important takeaway from this is that it is not merely a subversion of so-called quality, but a reminder of what it means to be a Roblox game. Many popular games today seem to share the same possible minimum of scripting and design required to get to the front page. But I believe these games created by funny game studios are an important showcase of what you're left with when you strip that all away. Roblox, naked, honest and true. You'll never find this on the front page. Old Roblox nostalgia comes in many forms in the modern day. In some games it's as simple as enabling surface jump or using the old crossroads as sword fight on the heights map. In other games we'll find entire recreations of not only old games, but the old engine as a whole. But if you wish to create the most faithful representation of what Roblox was like in the early 2010s, you don't have to go that far at all, as I believe the true essence of old Roblox can be found in free models. Free models have a largely overlooked charm for the same reason they are frowned upon. They require little to no skill or knowledge to insert a game. The truth is that developers simply weren't as experienced back then as they are now, and free models were commonplace, which is strange to imagine now. The sheer effortlessness of inserting models was simple enough for a child to learn. Although I want to create fully explorable, three-dimensional worlds throughout their own imagination, which is one thing that makes Roblox so unique as a platform. Seeing recurring free models, including Roblox gear, also gave Roblox an identity which has long been lost to time. Additionally, having someone else's free creations in your own game, or sharing your work to become part of the works of others, provided a sense of community, of a silent, site-wide collaboration with no goal in mind but to create. Looking beneath the surface of development mechanics and aesthetics, one fundamental element of Roblox game is the amount of player direction intended by the developer. At the highest degree, the player is forced in a set path of linear progression towards a specific goal, and the player has no access to the rest of the game if they do not follow said path. This includes many progressive fighting games such as Blox Fruits, as well as the typical obby. At the moderate degree, games technically have goals, but leave the players largely to their own devices. This includes arcade games such as Natural Disaster Survival and sandbox games such as Prison Life and Jailbreak. But at the absolute lowest degree, games have become too bare bones to have any goals at all, and instead leave the players to wonder for themselves what to do or what lies behind the corner. This is technically the most common type of game by a long shot, as it is all you'll ever join through a place roulette, and yet it's the highest to find, as there's nothing new or thick about them. When you join these games, it feels as though you were never meant to be there. The game doesn't talk to you or tell you what to do, and so you get a sense of loneliness, but at the same time freedom. I believe that it is often these old, empty and broken ghost games that often have zero visits that are the purest form of connection between the creator and the player. These games are often the result of another player's tinkering with Roblox Studio, looking for their own way to express their imagination. They have nothing for the player, no reason for them to join or stay. It's an honest and innocent connection with the mind of the amateur developer. I'm not here to say that one type of game is better or worse than the other, nor am I here to argue what the true Roblox experience is. The truth is that there is no correct way to make a game. There is nothing special about these games, nor about any of the games on the front page, nor any game at all. What matters in the end is the memories we make, the unique attachments we form with these games, as for many old players such as I, may we be reminded of the forgotten charm of Imperfection through the work of funny game stages.